is all right. If you ignore the camera, it don't matter, because you have to wait, and it counts right there on the screen that you're looking at live there. It counts to 30, and you have to hold that camera for 30 seconds, because that's when it's taking a movie, and that's what you get on your screen as it's moving. So, and I had taken, I took 3 or 4 moving pictures on it. They're on the camera right now. So when he had it to her, what she did, I could see what was happening. She was taking pictures. She was snapping pictures. I think she snapped about 15 pictures while the moving pictures were going on. Well, none of them are any good. They're just junk. And I was upset about that because I only want one. One moving and one solid, 2 pictures. And I got 20. And I've got to delete them all because it says right on it, I can show them to you in my camera, and it goes to 1 and it's gone. And then 1 goes to 7, it's gone. 1 goes to 3, I think, it's gone. Is that every time you snap that, it would take a picture of that. But it showed up, of course, like that, so it's a mess. Anyway, I was upset because I couldn't get to the camera to take it away from her, because I could see it flash. Every time she was snapping a picture, I could see the flash, and I knew what was happening, but I couldn't do nothing about it. Yeah, well, it's over now, and I don't care. I hope Carmen's got some good ones. She's got them. She says she's got them on the disc now, so I'll have them. You know, she's got to work with my camera, and I hope when we come back we'll have time to delete a bunch of them and put them in my computer. But I got a bunch. Isn't that now? I can sit there and watch 360 pictures, just sitting right there and I watch television. While I'm not playing solitaire. I just hit 703 solitaires. Wow. That I've no losses.
All right, Grandpa.
And we was playing down there, and John, trying to teach John how to do it. But it's a trick in order not to have any losses. A trick to how to, if you lose one, you knock it off. And I know how to do that. But I know that you play 2 regular solitaires and then go to Spider, 90% of the time you win. And that's what I've discovered. That's how come I got so many. If I lose one, I know how to knock it out of there. But they just go to that last icon over there, that last square. You click on that and shut this thing down. It takes it off. It doesn't count nothing. So it'll show it. Well, anyway, I'm cheating a little bit. But mostly I haven't had to cheat that often because I know that if I win, sometimes I'll play 2 or 3 days, 3 or 4 hours. Never win 2 games in a row. So I can't play Spider until I do. If I get 2 in a row, I can win. Anyway.
Tell me more about the war.
The war? Well, I had it really nice in the war. We were 31 days on the boat. It was how many were on that boat? I can't remember now. I can show you my picture on the boat. There's a picture about that big. I can show you where I'm standing on that boat when I took that picture. But there was 3,000 or something on that boat. And we were set outside Okinawa for 2 weeks. So we were 31 days on that boat before we got off. Coming back, we came back on another boat in 16. But we were just outside Okinawa. And anyway, they landed us in Seoul, in Incheon, Korea. We didn't know where we were going. Nobody did. So then they took us to Seoul by truck. And we stayed at Incheon overnight. Great big old building with no windows. Geez, I about froze to death. Those sleeping bags we had in the Army, they call them mummy bags, and that's what they were for. Mummies, not people. But they were cold. Oh man, they were cold. And we slept in the barracks. The cots were about this high off on the ground. And we were upstairs. The wind blowing through. It was miserable. Then we moved up to Seoul, and that's where we lived in a Japanese silk. It was a factory, and we lived on a knoll, and it was about, I'd say it was a couple 100 feet high, and the barracks were up there. And well, I can show you. I have one of them with pictures from Korea. It should be welcome to look at anytime you want. And so we lived there, and then the shop was about a mile away. It honked, and I worked in the shop. I had what they call a miscellaneous. Rebuild it, room about half again as big as this. And we rebuilt all kinds of parts, Jeep parts. We overhauled Jeep engines and transmissions, and we did all kinds of light work. And I had 2 Koreans working for me. And in fact, sometimes I had 3. And I had knocked one down at one time. He squared off to me, and I knocked him on his butt. They were little people. They had to be for me to whip them. But he had enough. And that's the only trouble I ever had over there. But Korea was nice as far as I was concerned. I wanted to come home. I didn't want to go over there. We had only been married like, Carmen, like I say, Carmen was 12 months old. We'd been married a couple of years. And I didn't want to go over there. They took, when we left, when we were going aboard the boat to go over there, they kept pulling guys out here and sent them home. Guys had 3 kids, they could go home. They were taking them home. That's 2 kids, we went overseas. That's how they separated us. But when we got over there, when we got settled, it was nice. I worked in this place there. You had a stove, keep us warm. We didn't have to go out in the cold or anything. And,
was it ever dangerous? Was it ever dangerous? Dangerous?
No.
No.
No. The only one, we had guns, but they were in the orderly room. We never seen them. The mailman carried a gun. He had to go to Seoul, from Seoul to Incheon every day. He went for the mail and come back. Drove a Jeep about 35 miles or something like that. But he did carry a gun. He never did use it. But I built, well, first off, I got over there, and I had 2 guys working for me, so all I had to do was kind of ride around, make sure they did everything right, and check it out. I built a 3-wheel, it was like a scooter. It was about this big, had wheels about this big, and it had a fork in front, and a motor on the back, and a seat on top of the motor. And it was made out of armor plate, and I didn't know that. So I tried to drill it, and then I found out. Anyway, it was in pieces when I got over there, and I picked it up. So I put it together and welded everything. That's the thing you could do. You could weld to it, but you couldn't drill it. And I made it all up. So when we got to Polson, after we got over there, he lived up here in Logan, out of Utah, out of Salt Lake a little ways. So I got pretty friendly with him. He used to ride on the back of me. And we'd go out every night after work. And we'd go out and go around Sewell and up in gun emplacements up on the hills. And there were dugouts where they had guns during the war. But the war, maybe they had guns there, I don't know, because the Japanese had taken over Seoul and all of Korea, and they'd been there for years. And any houses that were what we call a house, the officers took them over. And the Koreans all lived in grass shacks. And it was kind of nice for us. But Korea was a whole different thing. I could say I did my job, and I was a machinist, I was a welder, I was everything. So they would move me around, do different jobs. So we built stoves. I had to weld stovepipes because they had to go up about 5, 6, 7 of those lengths of pipe up through the ceiling. And I was welding pipes and any welding they had to do, and then at the end I was doing trying to do machine shop work. But it was too late to do much with that.
Now, did you enlist, or did you get drafted, or?
I went with the 2 guys dragging me. I'll be honest with you, I didn't enlist, no way. My dad, the first people that went in World War II were the reserves. And they had been in it and drawn their money. I don't know how much they made, but that's who they took. and because they had marching, they had instruction. They were in the ROTC and high school, and they'd come right out of there and they'd go right into this thing. And so they took them first. When I asked my dad if I could join, I was going to get some easy money. All I had to do was wear a uniform and march around once a week. My dad says, "Do you want to kill your brother?" I said, "What you talking about?" He says, "This is what they're for." He said, "They've a riot, and they have to kill somebody. They kill them. It doesn't matter who they are." I said, "I don't think I'd like that." He said, "I know you wouldn't, so you're not joining." So I didn't join nothing.
Thank
and
goodness.
Right then, don't volunteer for nothing in the Army, and I didn't. I know when we got overseas, when we went in basic training. No, not overseas, but we were in basic training, and we were in Fort Ord. Where was it? Can't think of the name of it anyway. Right here in the States. And the first thing they did, they said, "How many of you guys can type?" 2 or 3 guys raised their hand. "Come with me." You know what they were doing? They were mowing lawns.
What does that have to do with?
That's how they did it. And then there was different things. There was like the cooks. They came up with some different thing. Get volunteers. I thought they got volunteers. They volunteered to be a typist, but they mowed lawns. I know what they did. They were in our barrack, and the cooks were the same way, and everything that they wanted volunteers for, and that was in basic training. But that was beside their training, that they were doing all these things.
Oh.
Because they'd volunteered for these things. Anyway, not me. I'll tell you a funny experience though in basic training. We had he was a sergeant. He was over our group, and they took us out in the field this one day and made a big circle. And he said, "Today we're going to learn karate." Okay, well, in the bottom of our barracks, there was 3 barracks, upper and lower decks. We had, I think it was 21 Japanese in our lower part of our barracks, and we were upstairs. And he said, "Today we're going to learn jiu-jitsu or whatever." So he's a big strapping guy, He said, "You, come up here." One of these Japanese guys. This guy was kind of skinny, but he was kind of tall. And he said, "Now we're going to demonstrate you." So he reached out for that kid, and that kid grabbed him and threw him clear across the ring. He said, "Cast it over with, it's all the karate we can." That was when we first got over there. The basic training, it was kind of rough. The guys were soft. They were all guys like my age. One of them was 38 years old. And we were out of shape.
Yeah.
They started out with about a 10-mile walk in the rainstorm the night we got there. I mean, Jesus, this was terrible. Wade right through the creeks and the water. And we went through, when I got through, we had 2 or 3 Mexicans. And those guys that started at the back, if anybody slowed down for a ditch or something, those guys would pass and they'd end up in the front. They were powerful. But Mexicans, I know they'd come right from Mexico and they were in shape. But I hadn't been there but a couple of months and I was right with them. I could stay with any of them. So I had it real easy after I got in shape. But some of the guys, it was kind of comical. But, we ended up with a 20-mile hike with a 60-pound pack and a rifle in basic training and watch. Then one day they had these big bags. They had faucets all around the bag for water. They'd hang it in a tree or a post or whatever, take it out on the problem. We'd go out to the rifle range or whatever, and the water was there. Well, one day we went out there and we'd walked 10 miles out there and it was hot and it was sweating and the water, boy, it looked so good. And an outfit from some other company in Camp Walters was a big place and it had 3 barracks in each unit, A, C, and D, I think it was 4 of them. This guy came over and dumped a bunch of ice in our bag, and this crew of ours, he went over and dumped the bag. We got no water that day because somebody put ice in it. It seems like this. That we went down with a machine gun. They had the machine guns all lined up. They'd call you. You'd run up to the machine gun, lay down behind it, get ready to fire it. The guy, the cadreman, he'd grab you by the shoulder and jerk you out of the way, and he'd sit there, boy, and just pepper away. We never even got to fire a machine gun one time. We had plenty of training. And the rifles were something else. If we got at a rifle range, and there'd be nothing but a hedge about 10 miles away, it seemed like, shoot at this hedge. You didn't know what you was shooting at. You was shooting at this hedge, because that's where the enemy was. And then after that, these guys were walking back and forth as cadremen. Well, you better fire that rifle, because a lot of guys didn't, because then they'd have to clean them. So they sat there and cleaned rifles all night long after they got back in. We had one thing with training. Did you ask about my training? To take a grenade, they had blank shells that went with this. You put them in your gun. Then the hand grenade went on the end of the barrel and was hit with a fasten, so that when you fired it, it would shoot the grenade up and over. Well, we were on one of the wall. It was about this tall. We were on one side of the wall, and we were firing over the wall. Well, when you get it on your rifle, you could put it, if you put it on your shoulder, it'd kick the heck out of it, but you could. But you'd put the butt down and fire it up that way and go over the wall. This one guy, he fumbled around and he dropped his hand grenade, so that loaded. Here it is on this side of the wall. Here we are lined up. Everybody over the wall. Thing went off. Everybody over. Nobody got hurt. It was strictly just good luck that we seen that grenade, boy. And
wow.
we moved. That grenade really got us, because we had grenade training. We had to lay flat on the ground. Well, we'd raise up and throw that grenade at a target, which was about as far as you could throw a grenade. And then you had your helmet, boy, you'd flee down with your helmet out, so the shrapnel wouldn't get you. And that was tricky. I didn't care much for that. And I threw that sucker as far as I could throw it, I'll tell you that. And then we had a guy shot. We had what they called something out of a core. There was a screen wire. Was it? No. It was barbed wire, all in lanes, and we had to go under there with your rifle. So you had to go on your back. And one guy, I guess what we heard about, I'd never seen it, he raised up and he had machine guns in two corners shooting across with tracers and across the top. And he raised up, and that was the last he remembered. And then he shot him right to the head. And he didn't want to come up, but he went under that thing. When I come home on my furlough, after being basic trained, my back was raw. There was no skin on it. The doctor me, but basic training was rough, but it was good.
Did you write letters to June? Did you write letters to June?
Every day. And every day I had me and this Polson that I was so friendly with. We over there they had what they called, they weren't swap meets really, but they were, everybody would bring a pile of stuff, whatever, and put it in a little circle. And a whole field full of these crayons. And we bought a whole dark room. They had larger with the pans, with the chemicals, the paper. We bought everything in this, we call it swap meets. And so we had a dark room. I didn't take any pictures. I didn't even have a camera. But everybody was bringing their pictures to us to develop and print. And from companies around us besides our own company. And everything we wanted we took. We printed for us. So we had every letter I sent was full of pictures. And they're in there in the album. And all kinds of stuff. That album's real interesting, and sometimes you get this go through. You could play it, I know she could, but she won't. But I had bought this one that I got now. We went to Salt Lake. We used to go to Salt Lake every other year or so. And we walked into the swap meet, and they have a big, nice, big swap meet. Right inside the gate, there was this accordion sitting there. And I said to the guy, "What do you want for that thing?" He said, I think he said $500. I said, "Yeah, thanks a lot." And I started walking away. He said, "Wait a minute." He said, "Will you give me two?" I said, "I don't got two." And so I started walking away. And he said, "No, come here." So I walked back. He says, "Can you play it?" I said, "Well, I can play at it." So he grabbed it and stuck it on me, and I can play it a little bit. Probably not as good as I do now, and I'm lousy now. Because I played it now ever since then. I've worked on the accordion, except I quit for a long time because my ears were so bad in these hearing aids. It sounded so out of tune. I just said, "No, I can't play that." 'Cause I don't read music. It's strictly what I in my mind. And so finally, I played a little bit, and I put it back down in the case, and he said, "How much have you got?" And I opened my wallet, and I had $50. I said, "I got $50. He said, "Give me it." So I got that thing for $50. I know you can't touch one for $50. But that's where I got that one. I've been playing that one ever since. But it's a lot smaller than that one. It isn't as pretty either. But well, it's prettier on the outside. But hers plays better. Did you ever play it down there?
No, I didn't hear.
Yeah, I played it every time I go down there. I get it out. It's rusty from not being played. John digs it out, and I play it a little bit when I go down there, just to see if I can still play it. It's bigger than this one.
Do you remember when Margot got engaged?
Hmm?
Do you remember when Margot got engaged?
Well, I can remember when she went to school. When she went to college, we sent her to Salt Lake to go to college. She was where she wanted to go. So we took her down to the depot. I don't know. She'd been, I think she was already registered in Salt Lake, but she met this Dick Travis. He was an airman. Well, he was a flunky or something. I don't know what he was. But he was stationed out in Nellis. And I remember the first time we took her to the bus, and he was there. And they stood there talking and mooching and playing around until he missed a doggone bus. And I was so mad I could have killed her. We had to wait for the next bus down at the depot. But they got married after that. I don't know. My girls, as far as they're married, I wouldn't tell you about Carmen because that's got to be a family secret as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't good. None of it. She was bad. But then when she, actually, until she married John, Carmen, from the time she was 14 till she married John, she'd been through whatever other marriages she'd been through. She was distant. And I could tell you, but I don't want it in here. I don't want it in there.
Okay.
But she was kind of a problem. But Margot stayed right at home, and like I say, from 7 to 13, she drove the midget. She was a perfect angel, good in school, went to school all the way. We sent her to Salt Lake. She went to college. I don't remember how much she finished. Carmen got her education. I don't know where Carmen got her education. I just don't. I don't know because we kind of lost track of it. And anyway.
Did you meet Bob? Did you know
Bob Kassler? He was an idiot. He couldn't read nor write. But he got a hold of her, and she'd sneak out. There was sneak out the house and go to his house and all that stuff. And his parents didn't want anything to do with him. Nothing about it. And he was lazy. He worked for the Northrop airplane factory. I don't know what he did, but I know one time he got to work and he had a flat tire right there in the parking lot right at work, and he couldn't go to work. He had to fix his flat tire. I mean, he was lazy. Like I say, he never cared about Margot. Never even come to see her. Never nothing. In fact, she must have been about 4, 5, or 6 something. And he came down to the house one time. And I asked Margot, I said, "You know who that is?" And she says, "Oh, who is it?" Didn't even know him. And he didn't pay no attention.
What about Jack Abrams?
Hmm?
What about Jack Abrams?
Well, Jack is he's not a likable guy. He really isn't, because when they were in school, him and Margot, her and Margot, they played in bands together. They went to school together, and I didn't care for him at all. She was going with a guy I did like, but the first thing we knew, they were married. That's it. And she'd been married to Travis, to Dick, and Dick didn't like the way she kept house. He didn't like nothing about it, and he
Who was married to Dick?
Dick Travis was Margot's first husband. Yeah.
And
Kassler was
Carmen's first.
Carmen's, yeah.
And then Jack was Carmen's second?
No, she married a guy named Young, and let's see, I'm not sure. You'd have to ask her.
Well, because Grandpa Jack is my grandfather. He's my dad's dad.
Let's see. Wait a minute. I have to think. Carmen had John, and now had Andrew and Philip, right? Let's see.
Andrew and Philip are Dean's kids.
Didn't Carmen have Andrew and Philip? She had to. Who's your dad now? You're not little John.
John,
right?
yeah.
And Andrew, I don't know how.
Andrew's Dean's son.
Not Andrew.
Dean and Donnie?
Dean and Donnie. Donnie.
They're Bob's kids, right?
No, Donnie's your dad. Your grandpa.
No, Donnie's my uncle.
Jack Abrams. Then Jack Abrams. Then it's your dad.
Well, Jack Abrams is my grandpa.
It's your grandpa.
And John is my father.
And little John is your father. I mean, I get mixed up. I have to remember. I got a whole bunch of them. I got 7 was kids down in Salt Lake. I got them all. Great grandkids, all great grandkids, all.
Yeah.
I can't keep track of them. Well, we had those pictures in there. Supposed to be of 5 generations, 3 families of them, 5 generations. But the back row didn't show. It was dark. It didn't show. Carmen said she's got them on another camera. But my camera didn't show. But there's 2 pictures laying in there that they tried. She printed, but they don't. The whole back row, Donnie, and the whole everybody's down the back row. Isn't in there. Okay. Anyway, Carmen was married several times, and I know she was married to Young, and she was married to Jack, and she was married to Kassler, and now John. I know that many. And John he is just, I call him my father. He gets a kick out of that, I call him my dad. I love John. He's the greatest guy in the world. But this Young, he was a chirp. But I think that's where Carmen got her education, I think. This Young was a bookkeeper.
Right.
And she was married to him. Now, I don't really know that much about that, because she didn't get nothing out of Kassler. She didn't get nothing out of
Abrams.
There was another one, but I don't know. She was living with a guy. I don't know. All I know is he had a wolf for a dog.
Who?
This one guy she was living with for a while in California before she met John. And before she met Young, I think Young was, oh, I hated that guy. He treated the kids like dirt. And I hated him. He had a son the same age as John, I guess.
Named John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one. And he would do anything with that kid. But John, he treated John like dirt. And, I didn't like him at all. But Kessler, he was absolutely useless. But she was young. She didn't realize what she was getting into. But don't say nothing about her life to her about what I've said.
Okay.
Because I'm trying not to say anything.
Okay, I'll stop. I won't say anything.
No, Carmen is a nice. Mine two girls are just so beautiful. It's pitiful. I can't believe how nice they are. And Carmen is the same way. She's a little upset at me right now.
How come?
Well, I wanted to take 5 generations, and I named them 5 people. That's what I wanted. And I didn't know there was 3 of them there. There was 3 of them all down there in our house. And so we talked about having 5 generation pictures. We've been talking about it for 6 months, every time we talked. And that's what I wanted. Well, she got upset about that. And I didn't know what was going on, but she says, what are you going to do? What 5 are you going to choose? You got 3 of them right there in that picture, except the back row isn't showing, so she hadn't got anything in that picture. But she couldn't explain why we couldn't do that. Well, I know now. After she got excited and kind of, now everything's okay, but she is a little upset. And they're also dark. In these pictures, you can't do it. You don't have it. But I think she's got it on her camera somewhere. She got the wrong camera. She got cameras mixed up. And one of them was on the table. She thought it was hers, and it wasn't at all.
Yeah, it was ours.
Anyways, so I don't know how that all worked out, but they were taking it with mine. Well, I was mad at that. See, I left your dad. I was looking for the 5 generations, and I thought he wouldn't be. Didn't even think about him being in the picture. I handed him my camera, and I told him what I wanted. I want 1 picture of the group, and after they get the big group together. And I wanted just a 5, but I didn't get it, and she was mad about that. So anyway, he was going to take these pictures, and I wanted 1 movie picture. So all I had to do was flip the button and start taking the movies. And so I told John and explained it all to him, and that's because I thought he would be taking them. Well, he found out he was going to be in the picture. He handed it to his drunk that was down there, and she was. And so he goes over and talks to her, and I'm back in the back of the picture, and I can't get out. I had to go up and grab the camera, because I didn't want anybody else without me at least telling them about it. So anyway, he would talk to her, and so she started taking the pictures. Well, they are a mess. All the time, you have to wait. You snap the picture, and when you go out there now, I bet they charge you to put your boat in, and everything has gone crazy out here now.
So
but I bought another boat after that 12-footer. I bought another one, and I sold it for more than I bought it for. We used it for about 5 years, and it was a good boat.
I'd like to talk more about Geraldine.
Okay. She was an artist, really was. And her son, Gary, he's the same way. And he goes farther. He scrolls glass. I've got one. Where is my scroll glass? I don't know. Let's hear something. It's in his house somewhere. He scrolls it, and then when you scroll it, you can paint it. You spray the paint on it and wipe it off. It stays in the. Well, Jim did that for us. It's beautiful. But he did a whole car that way, all except the windshield, at one time. Now with her, she was an artist. When I was in school, in high school, I was doing all the write-ups on all the things that we had to have write-ups, and she was doing the artwork. And we got A's on everything. She was really a good artist, but that's all she was good for. She wouldn't keep house. She wasn't a good wife. And back in those days, I was looking for a job. I was tired of working for $1 a day, and so I'd go up in Idaho and look in the fields to try to I can find work. And every time I'd go away, and I'd only go for a weekend, maybe stay one overnight. When I come home, my furniture and everything was gone. She moved out. So the last time.
Why did she move out?
I don't know. She never done anything. I could go home at night after work and she'd still be in bed. But she wasn't any good in bed, I'll tell you that.
Oh.
But I can never remember kissing that girl, believe it or not.
Why? Why not?
All the time I went with her, and all the time we was married, I never kissed her.
Not
she
once?
used to put her eyebrow up. That was a kiss for her. She was not a wife. Anyway, but she was a good girl. But she was a good woman with her parents. And we snuck around. And when this actually happened, it was crazy and it was a mistake, and they all understood. Her mother did everything. She, like I say, I never kissed this girl. Never did. Never. Her mother got the idea she was pregnant. And she arranged for the wedding and everything else. Had a big wedding and all that, and then told us about it. We were both 19.
And was she pregnant? Was she pregnant?
No.
No. Oh.
We had married 3 years before she got pregnant, and I still don't know how she did. I really don't. My kids were planned. I know when they were came, but or Gary, but he looks just like me, so I know he's mine.
That's good.
Well, anyway, she had 7 after him, and she married some other guy, so she must have changed a lot. But her mother, I don't know what to tell you about her, but she was an artist, really an artist.
Did you love her?
Did
you love her very much?
No, I don't think so, because when I left her, it was so easy. The last time that she left, I went to a guy that I got, we'd kind of worked together, and we were digging trenches, and we were doing sewers in Salt Lake City, and they were 15 feet, 16 feet deep. They were planted way down. And we worked together, and every time that they come to a road or something, the boss would say, you on this side and you on this side, you want to work together, now work together. And we'd go into the... So I got to know him real well. Well, his wife, father was, after I seen him, Jesus, he looked like he was 500 years old. His mother didn't look old at all. Anyway, she got word that he was dying. And so she wanted to go home to him. So we decided to pool what money we could dig up, Tom and I between us, and we'd take her home. So we left for him and his wife and me and my wife, Geraldine. We got 90 miles out of Salt Lake and blew the car. So we pulled what money we had for the trip and sent her on a bus back to Fort Madison, Iowa. And we nursed the car back to Salt Lake and got it to run. Got it all fixed up, and so then Tom and I, we decided we were going. He said, there's lots of work back there. We don't have to worry about a job. We'll go back there and get a job. Okay, so he and I left my wife home then because Virginia she was already there. So we drove back there. It's 1,267 miles. And we drove back there in my car. And I stayed there about 2 or 3 weeks, and I looked for a job every day. The only money I made was Virginia's brother was a fisherman. He had a couple of outboard boats, and he'd put his lines out. He had these hooks on a foot line, 100-foot line, and he had hooks hanging down on every foot. And he'd set them out there at night, just before dark, and he'd be out there before daylight in the morning, just on the Mississippi River. And he'd gather in these fish, and so then whenever he got enough, and that was about a week, it'd take him to get enough, and he'd go up the river. I don't know how far it was, but I went with him one time in the boat, load all these fish on his boat and take them up there and sell them. That's how he made his living. And so I spent about maybe 3 weeks, and her older brother, he'd hitched freight trains all the way from Oregon, all the way to North Platte, Nebraska from Oregon. So he had to get home. He was a married man. He had to go home. So somehow they got together and decided that he could ride to Salt Lake with me, and then he'd catch a bus. So I don't know what he did, but anyway, he and I drove. It took 30 hours to drive it. We drove it back to Salt Lake. He said, all I want is a bath and haul me over to the depot. And then we got in and we drove right straight through 30 hours. So he got his bath at my house, and I took him down to the depot, and I never seen him or heard from him again. And his brother, the fisherman, he went over to the laundry and got a 50-gallon drum. You know what that is.
No, what is it?
50-gallon drum? Well, they're everywhere. But in the laundry, they get detergents and stuff in these 50-gallon drums. They're about that big, they're about that big around. They'll actually hold 55 gallons. He went over to the laundry and he got one of those. I don't know where he got it. And they put it in my car. And I had to take the door off to get it in there, and I took the seat and put it on top of the tank. And then when they filled, that was gas. And then gas is costing him 9 cents because he got all his tax money back because he didn't have a car. He got all his gas was for his boat, so he got all his tax money back. So it actually cost 9 cents a gallon. He put 55 gallons of gas in that tank. And that's what took us to Salt Lake. And we'd stop and siphon it into the tank and go on.
Wow.
That's the only time we stopped, was to siphon the gas from the 50 gallons into the gas tank. That was quite an experience too. But we looked for jobs every day of the week. We never found a thing. People always say, we haven't got enough work for... Well, they were all farmers, so they probably weren't in the Army. Like in Salt Lake, all the guys were in the Army. You could get a job any place in Salt Lake. You didn't pay nothing, but you could get a job. Back there was no jobs. So he stayed there. He didn't come back. So he stayed there and never heard from him again.
So when you went back to Salt Lake City, is that when you got the job in the factory?
College? I never went to college. June did. She had 2 years of college. No, when I went to Radio 2 plant, I was running elevators in the Continental Bank building.
Oh.
And I went over there and got on right away. That was a good move. The first time I'd ever made any money. Jesus, I couldn't believe all the money. I had so much money I didn't know what to do with. We'd take June's check. We'd live on one of our checks and put the other one in the bank. It was that much money.
Wow.
We had money, we didn't know how to spend it fast enough. Because we saved most of it. That's where I met her.
Did you ever date her? Did you take her on a date?
Geraldine?
No, June.
Oh yeah, we traveled together. Like I say, we roller skated almost every day after work. The 6 of us and 2 guys. It was 3 of us, 3 men and 2 cars, and all these girls that I was hauling. We'd all roller skate. And, well, we could skate too, but I mean, we done it so long. All the time we was working with the Radio 2 plant, we were skating about every day, and we could skate. So that's really, I'd call it a date. We didn't call it a date because we never teamed up. But it was a long, long time. We must have gone together for 6 or 8 months with all as a group, and that's the way we went. And finally, I think I started taking her home last or something. I don't know, something like that. But we got friendly, and both of us decided that maybe we would, after all, date. She wouldn't date either. And she'd been going to this guy, and she finally gave him his ring back. I came home from work one day, and then she was pregnant with Carmen. Now Carmen was born 9 months and 12 days after we were married. We know because we had all my neighbors and whatever else, you know, all had the colanders marked. But we knew exactly.
Bit nosy, huh?
Yeah. And anyway, it was we just started dating then, but we didn't do much but roller skate. And
Did you propose?
oh yeah.
How did you do it?
Oh well, well, I don't know. It just kind of worked out. We had I don't know if you've ever seen those black glass blocks about that square, about that thick. They make walls out of them, and they're made out of glass. They made some banks with them, and we had one of those, and we started putting our chains in, both of us. That sucker was chock full. I don't know how much was in there. I have no idea. June had 50 sheep. They were in her dad's herd, but she owned them. And I had a house. It was actually, I built a house, and my dad did. He wouldn't let me even hammer a nail. He built the whole thing. But Geraldine and I lived there. And I dug a cesspool because everything was outside toilets then. And I dug a cesspool. We used the one what folks had. We went in the house to shower, and it was right in the back half of my mother's lot. I bought the lot and built the house. And that's where we lived when we rented in a couple of places, but then we moved into that house. And eventually that house, my brother-in-law bought it, moved it up in behind his house up on Westminster, and he made a garage out of it. That's how it was built, for a garage. All you had to do was saw out the door, put hinges on it. after he tore my inside out, I had closets and stuff in it, sink, and I had it out like the house. That's where we were living when I left her. We finally just told her, that's it, we're through. And that was it. I went to a lawyer, and she didn't complain.
At all?
And I paid support for my boy, and gave her the pickup truck, and I took the Studebaker. But she drove that truck. There was nothing wrong with that truck. She liked it. It was more than I had to give her. And I paid her. And my $90 a month I was making, I was paying her $30. And when I went in the service, of course, we only got in the service. I paid the overseas pay was $138 a month. But out of that came our PX money and our insurance and stuff. And I don't think I didn't keep very much. I sent the rest home. June put it in the bank. In fact, she bought my first accordion with some of it, which was that one that I think it's that one that Carmen's got. I'm not positive of that. Don't make facts that. But I think that's the one that she bought.
When did you learn how to play the accordion? Right here?
Down in California. Oh. I did it all myself. I never had a lesson in my life. We bought it, and when I come home from the Army, was in Salt Lake, and I had, she had bought that accordion, and I think that's the one. Like I say, don't say this to Carmen because that might be wrong, but I think that's the one. Anyway, Carmen started to play on it. She couldn't see over it. We finally, we bought her, well, to begin with, we bought Carmen what they call a Bambi. It was about this big. It had 12 keys here, but it had a keyboard. And she started lessons with that. And then we bought two others after that for her, a bigger one and then a bigger one. And she finally went to that one. And she couldn't see over it. But Carmen could really play that thing. She was doing the shakes and all that stuff. Stuff that I can't even think of doing. She was good. But I don't know, she was all wrapped up. Man, and she's been married a half a dozen times. And she finally found the one that was the right one, that's all. I have to go back. It's one of those things I'm sure that you'll probably want. You must know what you're doing, so you can probably separate it. I can give you years by thinking of what car I had.
Really?
That's the only way I can think of what years, most of the stuff I know what I had. I bought the Studebaker, It was a 1938. It was a roll job. I mean, it was rolled over, and I bought it real cheap. And me and my brother Paul, who was a body man, we repaired it, and we drove it until, let's see, what did I get after that? That was in 1938 till 1940 something. I had it for about 10 years. Then I bought a 1950 Chevrolet, which was a rolled over job, and we repaired that one. I bought them cheap, and I got pictures of both of them, if I can find them, rolled over and repaired. But I've been a mechanic all my life. I was holding the light with my dad when I was 5, because he was a mechanic as well. So I can figure I started my experience at 5 years old. And I retired in 1980.
Wow.
I was with automobiles all that time.
So, do you have a passion for cars? Do you love cars?
Well, I couldn't wait to get to work.
Mm-hmm.
I love to work on cars. I did it. I have to get over here. I can't hear you.
Oh, no problem.
So,
here. How about this?
I didn't mean to move like that, but I can't hear you. And I don't want to keep saying huh.
No problem, no problem.
When June and I were first married, I was working for the Radio 2 plant.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd haul coal for 4 hours we were 3 shifts. On the shifts I hauled coal for coal company locally. And for 4 hours, and I'd go home, and on Sundays or whatever, I worked on cars in my yard. And I've never been without working on cars. I love to work on cars.
What's your favorite type of car?
Car? Oh, I don't know. Now, today is altogether different. I was strictly a Chevrolet man at that time. But I worked for Chevrolet at first, and then I worked for Lincoln Mercury and Ford for a good many years up until I retired. But I went to work at Ford first thing because everybody I talked to said I wouldn't work on a Ford if you gave me a budget on them. They're too hard to work on. And I said, well, nobody wants to work on them, that's where I'm going, because that means there's jobs open. And that's what I did. So I worked for Lincoln Mercury and Ford for a good many years. Till I moved to Las Vegas, I went for Chevrolet.
So how old were you during the Depression?
How old? When I moved here and when I moved to California, I went to Idaho. We were there for about a year, I guess, in Twin Falls, Idaho. We moved our trailer. We moved into a trailer. First of all, when I come home from the service, we bought the old homestead where I was raised, not born. It was about a block from where I was born. June and I bought the old homestead. And somehow we just got the idea we wanted to get out of Salt Lake. I didn't like that 12 hours a day for $1. It didn't seem like it was right to me. They didn't pay no wages. It was bad. But things were cheap too, but now I lost my train of thought.
Moving to Idaho?
We moved in, we bought a trailer, 27-foot trailer, and we lived in that when the girls were young. I built bunk beds in the back of it, and we had a bed, and we made up on the kitchen table. It was made so you could make a bed at night, and that's where we also had a couch that we could make into a bed. And we lived in that trailer, and I moved it up into Idaho, and we stayed there for a couple of years. Greatest kids town you've ever seen in your life was Twin Falls, Idaho. Everything they did was for the kids. They even had a parade, a big parade. They decorated their wagons and tricycles, and everything was for the kids. And then they dammed off, there was a creek run right through the park. They dammed it off, don't dam it, but they put a screen across and planted fish in it so the kids could fish. And for the prize for the 4th of July or whatever it was, And I was a cub master. I had cub pack. Well, all the time we was in Idaho, and June worked with me. She worked with individual kids and stuff real well until we moved. We really enjoyed Twin Falls.
Why did you move?
Well, what happened when I went there, I was still working in Salt Lake, and I worked in various places in Salt Lake. One of the guys I was working with, I think he got fired from where I was working. He moved up to Idaho. Well, he didn't move. He went up there all that this way. And he called me and said, I got to have a mechanic up here. When can you come? And I said, how about now? Fine. So I took the car, and I drove up there, and I drove back and forth about 3 weeks in a row, just on weekends. I drove back from Salt Lake to Twin Falls. And I worked up there. Well, about 2 weeks after I got there, he got upset and he quit and went back to Salt Lake. Never heard from him again. So we worked there until, well, the business, I liked the job and I liked the town, I really did. And the snow, it would snow there, but it would only last a day or two and it was gone. And your weekends were nice. You could get out. But anyway, when he left, then we had a service manager. He stole the demonstrated car, and he went to California and stole the car from the company. And he called me, and he said, told me he was in Inglewood, California. And he said, I got to have a mechanic. How about coming out there? Well, that's my dream. I always wanted to live in California. So I said, I'll be there. And so we left on New Year's Day. We left, towing that. We had traded our 27-foot trailer house for a 36-foot. I had that on the back of a 24-horsepower Jeep, and I towed it. I got all the way to out here just before you get to well, I towed it through Vegas, and I got out there on the hill out here and blew it up. So I hooked it onto the Chevrolet. I had the 50 Chevrolet at that time. We towed it into Baker, left it there. We had a hauler come and get it. Well, the Chevrolet blew up too, towing that Baker.
Oh no.
But we were able to, right out there in the desert, we got both cars to work. And my dad was a mechanic, and so we got both cars running, so we could drive them both to California, but we couldn't tow nothing with them. So we had the trailer towed in. When we got in California, they didn't have no place big enough for a 36-foot trailer in the trailer parks. So they parked us out in the field, and till they got us a spot. Now we lived there. Well, I can't think of the year. Let's see, I bought my 55 Chevrolet there. I bought a new 1955 Chevrolet. And we drove that for 5 years, I think, or maybe 10. I must have had 50 cars a long time.
Really?
And I bought 2 new ones. I bought that 50 Chev, and then I bought a 57 Chevrolet. When I bought a 60 Comet. And now three new cars I bought. Paid cash for every one of mine. I never believed in credit. If I didn't have the money, I didn't buy it.
Did you have a credit card though?
Did
you ever have a credit card though?
I had them, but I never had used them. We had credit cards. I've still got one, but I don't use it. We got them that we use for other things like our medicine in Arizona. So the credit card, they don't have the card, they have the numbers. When we send for medicine, they just send it and then they build a credit card for me. But that's the only credit cards we have. We never. When we left Idaho, Carmen had a bicycle and we had no way to carry it, so we got rid of it. So when we got to California, we went to buy a bicycle. Wasn't that much to worry about, but we didn't have no credit. So we bought something on credit there in Idaho, so we'd have some credit. Because we bought a house there after we lived in a trailer for a while. We bought a little house, our first house. We bought it for $1,100.
Wow.
And it had 2 bedrooms, It was a good house. It was a corner lot, had a big lawn, had a double garage. It was nice. And we lived there, and the freeway took it. So when the freeway took it, they paid us cash for it. And of course, it had been a long time paid for by then. And then, let's see, we moved out to Torrance, and we bought another house out there for $17,000. And the reason we got it was that the people that lived there lost it. They couldn't pay for it. They had a $2,500 second on it. They couldn't pay, so we had to pay the $2,500 to get in it. But we paid for that real fast. Then we come up here. We lived there for till 19. Well, let's see. I drove my 60 Comet out, and it was about 10 years old. Whenever we moved out of there, my brother called me. It was funny. I was working in a garage. I worked exactly a year, and they were getting. The mechanics had been there before, longer than a year, and they all had vacations, paid vacations. They didn't pay much in those days. But I told them my year is up, and I told the foreman, I said, it's up, and I'm gonna. Because we always took a trip. We went to her parents one year vacation. The next year we went to my parents. We did that for a good many years. So I told my boss, I said, it's my vacation time, and I'm going to go to Nebraska. Okay, so I told him about 2 weeks ahead. And so I'm done. I said, can I have my check? He said, well, the boss don't know what he's going to do about vacations. Well, he was lying like crazy because I know he paid the other guy. So I said, I tell you what, I said, I'm going. Well, regardless, you can do whatever you want. I'm going. So anyway, I went home that night. My brother was here in Vegas. He called me on the phone. He said, hey, how about coming to work for us out there? I said, when can I start? I said, I'll be there in the morning or sometime tomorrow, and I'll talk to you about it. So when we came here, his boss was building a cabin up here in the mountains. He said, well, we got to drive up there. So this was probably a Sunday morning or something. So he drove us up there and talked to the boss. Yeah, he was hired. So I hired in out here. And that was Lincoln Mercury dealer too. I had no problem getting on. Anyway, I went right to work. The fact is, I went to Nebraska and come back a couple of days early, and I worked with my boss's tools before I could go back home. And then I come back up on Monday, and I stayed with my brother. Well, we did. I brought the family up. I stayed with my brother for a couple of weeks, and that didn't work out. And in the meantime, she's hunting houses, and she found this one. One where we lived. You was never to the other house, was you? Not far from here. And so we bought that house and started moving. I went to the coast with trucks. I borrowed trucks, and everything else. I hauled all my stuff up here.
What were Carmen and Margot like as children? What were Carmen and Margot like as children?
Margot was an angel. You knew she drove a quarter midget. She started at 7. She had 150 trophies. I can show you a picture of my wall. Back here on the wall somewhere. She started at 7, and she drove it until she was 13.
She did what? She did what?
Races.
Oh, races.
You ever see a quarter midget? You know what a go-kart is?
Oh, yeah.
Well, a midget had a body, and it had a roll bar, and it was built for racing. It was like that go-kart. It looked like it was about the shape of a go-kart and everything, but it had a body. I'll show you a picture of it. It's in one here. I got one in my wallet. And June and I built it from scratch. I had a friend that was a machinist, and he and I built 2 of them together. We made all the parts in a machine shop, and I did all the welding and welded all the frames, and we made molds and borrowed a guy's body, and we made a mold out of his body, and then we made our own body. And I had nice upholstery. I'll show you the car. You haven't seen it. And we raced that, and that was a beautiful time of the year. She raced, and she raced. And there towards the end, when we got an engine we could compete, but these guys were spending so much money on these engines, they're racing engines, that we couldn't compete. But she was driving real well, and I changed to a different type engine, and she waxed them to bitches. We had trophies all the time. She ended up in a trophy dash and a main event, and she was winning races like crazy. And she had 150 trophies, and there's a picture somewhere of all her trophies lined up. And we had a real good time racing until she got too big for the car. I could get in it then. But that was a nice time of our life. Then we had a track. It was a regular track, and I helped build it. In fact, I had to overhaul the steamroller we had to roll the track with, and I had to take it up and overhaul the engine and build it all up for the company. It was a nice thing, and she raced on it. Well, it was so comical in a lot of ways. The men that had boys racing, they resented us like crazy.
Because she was so good.
Don't you let that damn girl get past you. And we hear it all the time. And Margaret Watson. She could sure drive that thing. Yeah. I don't have well, I've got it on tape sometime. Maybe I'll be dead and gone. You guys get a hold of the tape. And if you run it backwards, you could see that she was sideways all the time. The car was completely sideways all the way around. 77 feet down the straightaways, and it was 16 feet around the corner. Well, when she got to the corner, she was doing about 55 miles an hour.
Wow.
And just throw that thing sideways, come right out. And when she'd come out of that thing with that engine we had, she'd just pull away from everybody. So we had a real good time with our quarter midget. And when we moved here, and that was in 1980 when we moved here, California was nice, so we had a lot of fun in California. But when we moved here, we got the boat in California. We'd take it to Lake Beach, not Lake Mead. Or did we take it? Oh, we took it out to Gabella Beach, and it was turning off, like they do at the beaches and we could run that boat. I run that one. I built an 8-foot speedboat, and I think I got pictures of that somewhere that we used to run in there. And I built that in the shop while I was working. But that was in Twin Falls when I built that. And my brother took that when I moved here. He took it, supposed to pay for it, but he never paid for anything.
What was the last thing you built? What was the last thing you built?
The last thing, a trailer out there.
Really? All by yourself?
I built 5 trailers. When I retired, and I moved here, and I had gathered the iron and stuff. My brother had a pontoon boat, and there's pictures in there and video. It was made out of 2 drop tanks that was used during the war. That they used during the war to carry gas, and they take these long, the bombers would take it, they'd drop these tanks. They were about, they were 16 feet long, and they're about this big around. And when the fuel was gone, they'd drop the tanks. And so my brother got a hold of 2 of them. I don't know where he got them. He built a boat, and a pontoon boat. Had a deck in the middle, about so wide. He had cockpits, 2 in each one, which nobody would ever ride in, really. Rode out on the platform. But so when we came here, we got into boats real big. And let's see, if you know Jack Abrams, you know Jack Abrams. He gave me a boat, a 12-footer.
He's my grandpa.
It leaked and everything, and so I built that up, and I started out with 2 little outboards on the back of it to push it, and then I ended up with I ended up with a big old 16 horse, a big one, big engine, and we took it on a lot of trips. We went all the way up the river as far as we could go, just as far as we could go. No more. You had to go over the falls. You farther than we went. We took it up there once with a whole bunch of other boats. We water skied, and we had a ball there after we moved here. We camped overnight. We'd take out of here Friday night, and go and park on a beach, and put up a tent, and we just water ski and fish. And one time, I forget how, we had 100 and something fish, I don't remember, four boats, 5 boats, I think I was out fishing. And they had so there was 4 poles over all the time. About 2 in the morning, the fish would start to bite, and they'd all be asleep but me, and in my boat, and I'd start peeling these things off. And we had a big clothesline, and we'd just thread them on the clothesline and trail them behind us when we moved. That thing must have been 2 blocks long. And when we pulled up on the banks in the morning, and we flayed them all and put them in coolers and everything. Back there was no limit. Get them the fish you wanted. And they were big. These were big. They planted these fish, and they were like this. They were big fish. There was nothing very small. So we had a lot of fun, and we knew a lot of people. That Paul had a boat. And John Montgomery had a boat. He was a good friend. Mark had a boat. There was 5 or 6 boats of us. They used to go out there together, and we'd go out on weekends.